Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're taking a look at one of our favorite bottling series from Balvenie, Dustin, the 1401. This time, batch 5. Go ahead, 50.1%. I wrote it all down here to make sure I got all the information. 50.1%, 2012 release, only 2,862 bottles, 9 total casks, 5 bourbon, 4 sherry. Dustin, these Balvenie Tun 1401s, they average about 37 years old. I don't know like the exact age of this, but usually they have the sherry casks are in the 40s, as far as years old.
20-year-old bourbons, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what we have here, just a little something for Whiskey Review 600, which this is. We want to do batch 5, and we want to do batch 3 as well because they're highly regarded. This is batch 8 and 9. We just threw it out there just to look at, just for some eye candy.
Sample review here.
Sample review here.
And this has been open for about 20 minutes, guys, so letting them breathe a little bit.
Yeah, so
special occasion.
Yeah, so we level set it with some Cask Strength Highland Park 25, a couple other really nice things. So we try to give a real proper perspective because we love this series from Balvenie. Just a home run of an NAS whiskey.
Balvenie really doesn't. They don't do anything like this anymore. The
No.
1509s are not even comparable,
Nope.
and they really they've done some cool stuff with peated whiskey lately, but in terms of their classic, sherry forward stuff, they don't even do the 15-year single barrels anymore with the sherry. So,
yeah, the bourbon.
Fortunately, you've got
both good.
Yeah,
they were both good. But Dustin, this was probably, even compared to the 30s, this was my favorite bottling series from Balvenie for sure. So, never had the 40 or the 50, but I can't imagine it's much better. All right, my friend, Whiskey Review 600.
Price to be it.
Cheers. Hopefully 600 more. Instantly, you just get such an old school decadent sherry. Like sherry whiskey doesn't smell like this anymore. This is so deep and rich.
Yeah, it's a decadent sherry up front, but I tell you what, Mike, very quickly, I get a very distinct charcoal note in the background that comes just roaring in, and I'm not used to that on Balvenie because Balvenie's a clean malt. It's not coal fired, as far as I know. But man,
that's just old cask, Dustin.
Yeah.
It's a leather, but it's a weird leather. It's like a charcoal leather, almost like sashayed into, I want to say caramel.
The mix of candied fruit and dirty, like charcoal, is really interesting here, Mike. Like, because I'm not getting like that transition where you're talking about leather. I'm struggling to get into that because I just get those two diametrically opposed notes coming through.
Yeah, but I'm definitely getting leather.
Yeah, I made this note when I first nosed it, but I almost get like a cheesecake kind of thing going on here.
Man, this is so rich.
A little bit of raspberry.
Definitely some berries bouncing around. I can't really put my thumb on them quite yet. Like a bit of marzipan, maybe.
A little plum.
Now honey's coming up. Honey marzipan.
Oh yeah, a little bit of charred honey, a little dark honey.
Yeah, we've always said dark honey, like dark forest honey, like with these tuns.
I wasn't thinking about it at first when you said that. I was like, oh, that's obviously there.
But again, along with the honey, though, I don't often get this with scotches in general, but it's like there's a burnt caramel here. We'll go along with the oak note.
I can get on board. Again, that coal note for me is so distinct here.
Yeah, I would imagine that just comes from the cask. One of the bourbon casks is sitting there for 30-some years.
Or just, some really, European oak maybe being used. Although you'd think with casks this old, they'd probably be American oak.
Man, who knows?
Because these were probably real sherry casks and not the stuff we get today where they put it in the European oak to give it flavor.
When I looked at batch 8 and another batch, most of the 40-year-old whiskey was the sherry whiskey.
Yeah.
Maybe there was one 40-year-old bourbon one, but the bourbon ones were a little bit younger, in the 30s, typically speaking, and one was always like 23, 24.
Which makes sense. I mean, these are large butts usually from this era, so they've gotten less oak contact, so they're probably comparable in terms of oak.
Just again, beautiful, rich, just the peak of Balvenie, in my opinion. If you like non-peated sherried whiskey, because it does come off like a sherried whiskey,
yes,
with a few components of bourbon. Oh man, here comes vanilla. Now that I said that, that vanilla and the honey just.
Well, that's been Balvenie's really, their signature style forever is the double cask, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
bourbon and sherry. The 12-year, the 17-year.
I think Dave Stewart kind of pioneered that, didn't he? The 12-year-old double wood. Maybe I'm
Wouldn't
wrong.
be shocked me if he did. I mean, it's been really their staple. I don't know if the 30 and the 40s are the same mix, but I'm pretty sure they are a mixture of sherry and bourbon.
I think the 30 is.
Yeah, I mean it's been a staple that they've been doing forever, and here it is. Just this is a showcase of that.
Yeah, if you like the 12-year-old Doublewood or the 17-year-old Doublewood, which I always liked, I thought that was a nice step up. A lot of people didn't think so, but I thought differently about the 17-year-old. This is just takes it to its nth degree. Cask strength, over twice as old, 3 times as old.
The oiliness and waxiness here is just light years ahead of any of that.
Yeah, you just don't get this style of sherry note anymore. It's just so rich, so dense. It smells like old leather-bound books in a library that was buried in Alexandria 2,000 years ago.
Some yellow pages, yeah, I can see that.
I'm going in.
Go for it.
I found a guy opened up this bottle. I actually dealt with the guy many times, and I was just like, Dustin, this guy's selling samples for 44. You want it? He's like, no. I'm like, forget it. I'm getting 2. Like, I want to taste 3 and 5. They're the ones I haven't tasted. All right, let's get into it, Dustin.
Yeah, that charcoal note almost gives this like a peated kind of element where you start getting some like sooty smokiness here. It's not peated, obviously, but it's got enough in there to give you that little hint. More like a Lecheg or something. Oh, man. Yeah, even the vanilla notes in here have like a nice little bit of toasted oak coming through. Beautiful.
Oh, man, it's sweet and it's oaky. You're getting all the sherry notes. When I first swallowed, I was trying to like focus on something. It was almost like a raspberry bubblegum for just a minute. Like it was a fruit that was kind of red and then just went away. And here on the finish, oily, thick, dense sherry go along with honey, vanilla, a little bit of leather, and dare I say, sweet tobacco leaf. Ooh. Dustin, am I wrong?
I heard everything you said, and it left my brain instantly, Mike.
That's all right.
So, what I'm shocked by is how clean this is. After that nice kind of charcoal note, it's actually very... It's a little bit fruity up front, but then like it's just got this like vanilla sweet...
No honey.
Oak note that, honey is in there. Even a little bit of milk. But it's just incredible. It's got a perfect viscosity. The amount of alcohol left on your mouth is absolutely perfect. You know, Mike, the last few weeks I've noticed every time I sip on some whiskey, I'm noticing I'm a little more sensitive to alcohol than I have been. Mm-hmm. Just sort of like it's one of those things like I'm picking it up and it's drying my mouth a little bit more. Mm-hmm. This is so perfect right now. And that it does that without being like aggressive or feeling like it's fighting with anything. Finish definitely goes back into the fruits. You said something, I think raspberry maybe. Right there, I can get on board with raspberry. To me, it was just red fruit with this intense, a little bit of like the oak gives it a slight sour bitter note that very much raspberry kind of goes with.
Yeah, I said raspberry bubblegum.
Yeah. Now the bubblegum note, I actually think that's kind of the general sweetness in general. Is like double bubbles, kind of like
well, see, they both kind of
sophisticated friend.
Yeah, they both kind of hit at the same time. So it wasn't on like the initial, but as you swallow like that red raspberry bubblegum, like that hit right both there and there. I tell you what, though, on the long finish, the char note comes up. It kind of sits back there with light chocolate, and again, that char note has like almost a burnt caramel ridge to it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's beautiful.
Oh man, that's good. You know, Dustin, this, again, was mentioned before, this Whiskey Review 600. We posted in one of our last reviews, this or Lagavulin 37. It was a dead even race. And I was just too lazy to do the Lagavulin 37 before you got here. So that's why we did the Balvenie Tun, but the Lagavulin 37 is coming. Solo review.
Yeah, Mike's got 1 ounce of that.
Did you pour water in?
Yeah, just put a drop in there.
Yeah, 15.1, so you can bring it down some. Not to Dave Stewart's... what was he like? Down 37, 35?
Something like that, yeah.
I ain't doing it to this whiskey.
No. I tell you what, though, Mike, the sweetness went up a level. The soot is still there, but it's now really far in the back.
I like that you said soot, because you said charcoal before, and it did come off charcoal before, and now it's sooty. now it feels like it's going to stick to you.
The honey notes, it's stickier. You said the soot sticking. I mean, just the whole experience now is just sticky. Like, it is icky sticky.
Sticky sherry, raspberry bubblegum. But it is so rich and decadent. I mean, I could say filet. But a filet at Roadhouse and a filet at Hyde Park and a filet at Ruth Chris, they mean something different. An aged one compared to one, you know what I mean? This is rich and decadent.
This is, I don't know if it's Kobe beef, but I mean, it's a fattier, like that kind of fatty cut.
Oh, man. This
sticky.
I've said this before, Dustin. I've asked people this, and I've gotten some answers before, but I need to ask some whiskey reviewers this. Is there a better NAS whiskey series than these Tun 1401s?
No, but that's because this came out before NAS was something people were doing to cut costs. This was like, we're going to just put out something ridiculous, and it's just too much work to give you the age.
Yeah.
That was the problem here. It was they're just it's too much work.
Well, there's so much 40 and late 30-year-old whiskey in it.
Yeah.
To throw in one cask that's 23 or 26 and call it a 26, it's just not doing it the proper justice.
Well, I think a few of them even may have dipped under 20. And it's that's ridiculous.
No, I don't think so. I think
okay.
I think the youngest. I think
21 or 22 is the youngest.
23, I think, is what it was.
Okay.
And it was a bourbon cask, and it was only one in the 20-year-old range. Yeah. Everything else was 30 or 40.
I was thinking the first batch had a younger cask in it or something.
Maybe because the first batch was a lot fewer casks.
No one really looks at that one, but anyway.
Yeah. It was the first chance. It was. Well,
they made so few bottles. There's only 600 bottles that are.
It is the smallest run for sure.
Yeah, correct us down there. I'm just ballparking what I remember.
Yeah,
it's super low.
Yeah, it was the lowest yield. I do remember
and
that.
The lowest ABV, if I recall. It was under 50 by a good bit, I think.
Yeah, right. I think it was 49 something. It was 49 something.
Oh, yeah, not as far low as I thought, but.
Or maybe this was 49 something. This was 50.2 for
I thought all the ones we had done. This is 49.3.
Yeah, that was 49. So
I thought it was 46.
So that isn't the case.
I thought it was in the 46, 7.
You're probably right. It's probably lower. I'm getting 49 from that.
Again, I'm not an expert on these things. I'm just remembering.
I remember watching a guy.
We spent a lot of time reading about these years ago.
Yes, we did.
This was one of those dream whiskey kind of things.
I remember watching Whiskey Wednesday, the original guy. And he did one. He had a buddy over. He bought it, and he was like, "Hey, I got it for $350, like NAS." Like, man, they charge $350 for NAS. So then they popped it and drank, and they were just like, "Oh," you know what I mean? Just like, okay, that was almost like that Compass Box 3-year-old deluxe.
Yeah,
it was just like, come on, man.
Yeah, it says 3 years old. It's 99% 20-year-old Kalila. It's like Klein Leash.
It's like a Burnside or something like that. Like, okay, like for those who know, this is a treat. All right, Dustin. So with water, I'm actually picking up more things. The notes are warmer. They're more sharp, like where one cuts and one ends. I really like the nose with a little bit of water. You?
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, the nose is great here. I actually already jumped into tasting it. I couldn't help myself. But yeah, I mean, the nose got sweeter. And the palate actually got a little more prickly with the alcohol notes. It got more centralized, and that it's very sweet honeycomb vanilla thing going on with nice aged notes. It doesn't come off as ultra aged, for example the Linkwood 37, where it's starting to get canned Kentucky level oak notes. It doesn't have that.
The oak's doing something different.
Oh, this is old whiskey. Let's not get into anything silly here.
Right.
This is very old whiskey. Clearly, this is 25-plus-year-old experience, but it's not the 35-year experience where you really get into those. Oh, that's something different.
The oak note is different in this, and it's a snappy whiskey. It does have punch to it. It comes off slightly higher than 50.1, really.
Yeah, it really does.
It's a beautiful experience. Balvenie's always done a good job with giving you age on their specialty bottles. I've always been a big fan of the single barrel seals being 47.5, I think it is. That's a good ABV. They don't often go to cask strength. When they do, man, it's really magic.
So, you mentioned the leather in old books earlier.
Yep.
And I sort of got a little hint of that. But now that we've added water, this really does have that leather yellowed pages with a little bit of a tea spice.
I was going to say that book is wrapped in a sweet tobacco leaf.
I can go there. I'm getting to me it's tea leaves. I'm literally getting a little bit of a...
Because the bitter note? Because a little bit of the bitter?
A little bit of a black tea note, maybe hinting on black tea and white tea blended.
You might be right into about tobacco note, but maybe some of that leather on the back end that makes me think that. But there's a little sharp, just snap of bitter.
I mean, I think you're perfectly fine on either way you go with that one. I mean, but yes, but again, it's taking on more of these old whiskey notes without that ultra deep, rich oak note. Really nice, really excellent. Let me give this one more.
All right, Dustin, when you finish that, whiskey score time. It's my bottle, well, so to speak, my samples. So you'll give your first score, and I wrote down my score so people don't think we're using each other.
All right. So I believe I've gone a little higher on some of these other ones we've done here, Mike. But we're giving this one a very solid, but maybe disappointing 91. It's excellent. I have no negative notes here. I do feel like some of the other ones had a few like notes that were kind of wow, whereas this is just solid every which way. Good age notes, good viscosity, good snappy bite like you mentioned. But I'm looking for something else to go higher. 91's a hell of a score.
It is.
Excellent whiskey.
This is a scenario that, we've had this for a while, and we've been talking about doing this review for a couple of weeks. Expectations so high.
Yeah, that could be a factor too.
We're not comparing these today, but in my mind, this is better. That's not quite as good.
Okay.
The 8's a little bit better. The 9's not quite as good.
That's the most recent one we reviewed, right?
The 8, yeah.
Yeah, that is, the 8's something super special.
Dustin, I gave it a 92 out of 100. I mean, I'm right there. I was thinking about a 91. If I was going to give it something else than 92, I'd give it a 91.
I didn't even hint at a 91 when I was talking. I was like, the reason I didn't go 92.
Yeah, dude.
Those were the two scores.
Yeah, I think when I later I go back and look at it on whiskey basis, see what other people rate it. I bet it's probably around that.
It's 91 point something.
Oh, is
maybe
it?
91.7 maybe. I just looked at it like 10 minutes ago.
That's about right. So look, it's epic whiskey. Absolutely nothing off-putting. Rich, decadent, the notes we like. But you're right, there is not quite the wow factor it was with the 8. You know what I mean? There's something richer in the sherry, or just maybe older in the sherry note. I'd have to have back and forth to really like pinpoint what it is, but an incredible offering. I mean, an excellent sherry whiskey. You'd be hard-pressed to find, again, a Balvenie or a Speyside really done much better. If you like sherried whiskey as a cask strength.
I will say, once we put water in here, Mike, it to me no longer is a sherried whiskey. It's a whiskey with a good bit of sherry.
You're right.
But it's no longer a sherried whiskey.
I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. With water, it handled it extremely well. It brought out more flavors. It let the bourbon cask kind of come out a little bit, some of the brighter flavors. But you're absolutely right. You couldn't have said that better, my friend.
Yeah, whereas that one, I think, stayed a sherried whiskey the whole way through. And this one probably... this one maybe is closer in character. I still think this one had more sherry on the finish. Yeah, this one, the sherry really kind of subsides and lets the oak come through and dominate.
I agree.
It's not a bad thing. It's just, it's different thing.
Especially on the finish. Yeah, I agree. And especially with water on the finish. All right, so those are our thoughts on this particular whiskey. Again, this is a Balvenie Tun 1401, batch 5, 50.1% ABV. What were the details? 9 casks, 2012 release. It was a little over 2,800. Total bottles released. Great whiskey. So if you guys had a chance to try any of these, we'd love to know what you guys think. Justin, until next time, what do we wish the folks?
Happy drinking.
We'll see you next.
To 700.
Next, shit, 1,200.